Marketing Show. I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday, and I'm excited to talk with you here today. We're going to talk about what happens after hours at your business. If you have business hours, maybe it's 8 to 5, 9 to 5, maybe you have a receptionist that works the desk. Maybe somebody is responsible for answering the phones, but when you close your doors, when everybody goes home, what happens then? Do you have an automated answering service? Are you forwarding your phones to a call desk overseas? Who's answering the phone when the business is closed? And what kind of experience are people having if they call your business after hours? So, just because it's after hours doesn't mean that customers' needs stop or that people stop needing your service. Just because the business is closed, something may come up, somebody may need something, some of us work in international businesses where somebody could be calling from overseas where it's business hours there, but it's not business hours where your business is located. So what kind of experience are people having when they contact your business? Even potentially during business hours, maybe you have a receptionist, but they're a human being. They need to go to lunch. They need to go to, the restroom sometimes. And, maybe they forward the phones to someone, but, there may not be 100% 24 hours. So we're going to play and we're going to talk about a solution. So my name is Laura Carab, and we companies who have something to bring to the world, who help solve their customers. Hang on. Let me check this. Oh, yeah, it looks like I'm connected. Okay. Alrighty. So we help companies who have amazing products and services that they're solving their customers' problems, but they may need a better way of reaching the right people who would benefit the services they offer. So we help them implement digital marketing systems that help them enjoy predictable sales and hockey stick growth. So rather than relying on humans and our time and our memory, having a system ensures that our leads get followed up with, that our calls get answered, that even when the humans are not available or the humans may be inconsistent, because we are just people at the end of the day. We're not perfect, not that we're not wonderful, but we all have responsibilities. We have existing customers who need to be taken care of, and having systems can help us stay more consistent and deliver a higher level of customer service or sales support, and be able to close more deals, retain more customers, and be more successful. All right, so let's see. So if you enjoy this conversation today, if you're watching live, drop a comment. If you have any questions, drop a comment below, and I will be back to review the comments and answer your questions. Also, if this is a conversation, please do share with your network, like or engage our content so that we can all engage together better as a community and just help each other be more successful and be able to share in this conversation. Okay, so I would like, I'm going to give you a quick demo. Okay, this might look a little funny for a minute because we're going to switch to the screen. Okay, all right. So you should be able to see my screen. So with our AI agents, you can actually add a little button to your website. So if somebody wants to just call through your website, they can just click the button and talk to the agent, which is kind of cool. Or you can just set it up where when somebody calls, if your team misses the call, that the agent will pick up the phone and have a conversation. So, the great thing about that is that you're never going to miss a call 24/7, even if people are calling in at the same time. And if you have a receptionist cannot talk to three people at the same time. So they're going to have to put someone on hold, or that, somebody's going to have to go to voicemail or something if you have multiple people calling in at the same time. So that is not the case with AI. If it's on the phone and they're not able to answer the call, the AI will answer the call. They can answer like 90 calls a minute if they need to. So let's have a quick chat with Zoe. This is Laura. I think you might have a problem because I'm already using my microphone. Um, on my Oh, actually, so that's great. I'm glad I'm able to talk to you now. I thought there might have been a conflict with my microphone, but I see you can hear me, so that's great. I was just wondering about how AI might be able to, voice AI might be able to help me with my business. I mean, help with customer service, sales, and lead generation would all be great applications, I think, where we might be able to use help. Sure, that would be awesome. Yeah, it's Laura at email.com. That's correct. Yeah, I'm in Central Time, thanks. Yeah, I'm curious and would like, to find out more information. Just exploring options right now. Yeah, Zoom would be great. This week, Friday might work, or probably next week. Yes. Let's check later times, maybe in the afternoon. Actually, on second thought, let's try next week. Okay, so you get the idea. So, let's hop back over here. All right, so sorry, it's crazy screen. I know. I just gotta get back to my face instead of the screen. Okay, so you can see how it's a very natural, very human conversation, and she's going to qualify the lead. She's going to answer the person's questions. You can set it up to answer support questions and train it with a knowledge base. So if somebody's calling in and they're like, I'm having this problem and I need some help, you can set it up to say, oh, okay, well, I can help you with that. Let me, have you tried this or have you tried that? So if there are common problems that your customers often face, you can train it with a knowledge base or frequently asked questions and answers so that you can answer questions without, bogging down your human team with support questions all the time. And of course, if somebody says, okay, this isn't doing it, I need to talk to a human, it can forward to a human. Um, or if they call in and your support team is open and they say, oh, I need to talk to support, it can just forward them to support. So, it's pretty versatile. It can forward calls, it can book calls, it can answer questions, and does it 24/7, nonstop, never has a bad day. always in a good mood, always helpful, always respectful, never comes in, sick or not feeling good or having a bad day. It's always representing your business in the best possible light, professionally and courteously, so that your customers have a good experience every time they call, or your prospective customers. And I've had business owners I've talked to about this, sometimes on the maybe older side, who are like, oh, this is not for us, this AI stuff. And they're maybe have a negative view about AI and what it can do for their business. Yet when you call their business, you get a runaround answering machine, the whole like press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, press 3 for the directory, and like, one company I called and it says press 3 for the directory, and then asks you to type in the first couple letters of the person's name, and then it reads you off the first match that it has, spells out their entire name, and then asks you, is that the right name? Press 1, or if it's not the right name, press 2. Then if you press 2 for not the right name, it goes and it spells out. So, if business has something like that, and you have prospective customers calling in, how patient do we expect them to be, that you know they're going to, if they're the sales inquiry, they're on. Okay. So, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if instead of getting a runaround when they call the business, they're getting a really professional, human-like conversation that answers their calls and answers their questions, I mean, and uh, routes them to the correct person with ease just by saying the person's name, or connecting the information that they need, um, or can route them to support, or can book a sales call. Hang on. Book them into a sales appointment so that they can talk to a salesperson. What is happening here? That's not normal. Okay. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Hang on a second. My stream is going crazy. I don't know why it's all of a sudden changed me to sharing. you may have some thoughts in your mind about whether or not AI is the right solution for your company, or are your customers going to like it, or but what kind of experience are they having right now? If they call your business when the business is closed, what kind of experience are they having? And can you improve on that? And I think, as you've just seen with the demo of the voice AI, it's a very human like, very natural conversation. If it's not able to answer their questions appropriately, it can always take a message, book them into an appointment, or direct them, route the call to another department. So, it's designed to just improve their experience, help them have a better experience with your company, and make sure that they always get what they need and get taken care of, even after hours, or even if a receptionist has stepped away from the the phone. Okay, so let's take a quick look at. Let's go ahead and share the screen, so you're going to see the crazy background again for a moment while I switch over to sharing the other window. Okay. Just a moment. Okay, so it's going to look crazy for just a minute here. Okay. So, what happens after hours at your company? And if you're not answering the calls, or you're sending people into a stressful, AI or a voice answering system that, press one for this, press two for that, and then giving them a bunch of options. And if they're not paying attention, they have to go back through it. It just gets frustrating. I'm sure that other people have experienced that, and it's not just me. But if that's what your prospective customers are experiencing, or even your existing customers, if they're calling in after hours and they need some help, and they're getting the answering machine runaround, it just becomes frustrating, and they're not getting the experience that they could be from your company. So, most companies pour resources into generating more leads. They want to spend money on better ads, more content, bigger budgets. That's what they think about, is how to generate more traffic. But very few stop to ask what happens when someone actually picks up the phone and gives them a call. And so there's a gap between lead generation and lead capture that is costing businesses more than they realize. And like I said, also the existing customers, because their experience with you, every experience that they have with you, colors their opinion of how responsive you are to them, how easy it is to work with you, how good of a job you're doing. And if they get frustrated every time they call, they're not getting the best experience that they could be getting. And unfortunately, another thing that we have to worry about in B2B companies, if we're working, say we're working on a retainer, we want to keep those customers happy so that they are retained, and make sure we're not losing customers, because if we lose customers, it's really hard to grow the company. So, what if every call to your business was answered instantly, every single time? So, what just happened in our voice AI demo that I showed you? That interaction from the very first ring. So, well, we didn't really have a ring per se, but imagine the phone just rang, and immediately the inquiry was resolved. I was booked into a call, and zero human involvement was required. And here's what made it different from a typical missed call: it was answered instantly. There was no rings, no waiting. It was answered on the first touch right away. It was answered professionally. Every caller is greeted with the same polished experience every time by an AI agent. And it's answered consistently. It never misses a call. It can answer 90 calls a minute if it needs to. It never has a bad day. It never has to take vacation. It never stepped away for a moment. It's always there. And it can do it without a human. It doesn't need staff. So no missed opportunities. And, you know, it doesn't mean it's replacing the humans. It's assisting the humans. It's making life easier for the humans. So instead of having to be there 24/7 answering the phone, it can book people into appointments. It can route calls. So if it's an emergency, it can route the call to an emergency number so that, somebody doesn't have to be always answering. Say it's 3 o'clock in the morning and there's an emergency, you don't have to have a human sitting up waiting at the emergency phone number. But, if it's, it doesn't send people through to a automated phone system where it's running them around in circles, and we've all been there. That is no fun. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3. We did not understand your inquiry. Go back to square one. It just like drives people nuts. It drives me nuts. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So, the AI is just like so much of an improved experience. It keeps the conversation moving, keeps it professional, always on, and always helpful. And buyers don't only call during business hours. People are going to call after hours. People are going to call during lunch. So, they're not waiting for your business to be open. They're just calling when they need you, when they have a free moment, when something comes up, when they have a question or they're curious or they have a sales inquiry. Maybe it's 6 o'clock and they're still working and it just happened to now be the right time that they're like, hey, I wonder if these guys do XYZ, or I wonder if they can help me with solving blah, blah, blah problem. They're not waiting for you to be open. Yeah, they can wait till tomorrow. But maybe by tomorrow they're onto something else and they just forgot to get back to you. So most businesses tend to be closed when buyers reach out. And they are not waiting around for you to be open. They're just calling when it's the right time for them. And yeah, of course, like we all understand that there are business hours. But wouldn't it be nice if they did call at like 7 o'clock at night, if they got a professional answer and a professional human-like conversation that answered their questions and qualified them as a lead and then booked them into a call? So, the buyer, they're on their own schedule. They're ready to engage. It's the right time and their moment is right now. So why not meet them where they're at when it's the right time instead of making them wait? And what happens when nobody is there to answer the phone? And maybe it routes them through to a voicemail and asks them to leave a voicemail. Like, people don't like leaving voicemails. So research consistently shows that unanswered calls result in immediate defection. Otherwise, they just go away. The buyer doesn't stop. They simply move on to someone who does pick up the phone. So if they have a problem they're looking to get solved, they might be calling a number of different providers to figure out if somebody can help them solve that problem. If they don't get an answer from your business, they're not just waiting around till you're ready to answer the phone, they hang up and they move on to the next vendor or the next partner. Um, and, to some extent in a B2B context, they may be a little bit more patient given that it's, often we have long process sales that may take a little bit longer. But, the point is that why not make sure that when they're ready to talk to you, that you're ready to have a conversation with them? Even if it's, even if a human is not available, that at least they feel like the phone was answered, they had a conversation, and that they're moving on to the next step with you. And if they don't feel like that, they'll continue searching. They'll continue looking because their objective is just to get their problem solved. They may not care exactly who solves it. They're not waiting around for it to be the right time for you to be the right person to solve it. They just want it solved. So, they can just go look for the next company who solves that problem and give them a call. And if they answer the phone and they're responsive and they answer their questions and they book them into a call, well, they're now moving on to the next step with your competitor. So, this is an issue that is easy to solve that can have big results for your business. And, missed calls are invisible pipeline losses. If somebody calls and they get your voicemail runaround, and they just hang up, you may not have a record of that they called. They may not leave a message. They may just say, I'm not dealing with this, and move on. So the most dangerous leaks in your pipeline are the ones that never show up in your CRM or your reporting dashboards. And when a call goes unanswered, there's often no record that it ever happened. So you don't know who called. They didn't spend the time to give their name or their company or role, or nobody was available to record it. You don't know what they needed because they didn't stick around long enough to leave a voicemail maybe about what their specific question was. They just moved on to the next thing. And you have no idea how big the deal was, how valuable it was, or if it would have been a good opportunity because you didn't find out about it. So the pipeline doesn't just stall, it just disappears. So these may be untraceable, unrecorded interactions that are being missed. Not a people problem. It's not because the people aren't doing their jobs or that the people aren't trying hard enough or spending enough time or being there when it's the right time. We're just human and we have other responsibilities. We're serving customers. We are attending meetings. We are off the clock. Sometimes we go on vacation. Sometimes we need to go to lunch. Sometimes we're just in the restroom for a couple of minutes. But, most of the time, we are only one person and we can't be there 24/7. And our team also, we can have the receptionist forward the phone to someone, but again, it's not a seamless 24/7 thing. So the real problem is people's availability. And buyers in 2026, sorry, expect responsiveness. They're not waiting around for tomorrow when someone gets back to them, but they're waiting around. They're like expecting you to be there now. Like we are in an instant gratification economy. And, we have 1 hour delivery with Amazon. And we just expect sort of an instant response, instant gratification. When we call, we want somebody to be available. We want an answer. And, most businesses are only reliably responsive during a narrow window of the day. So, the 9 to 5 window when the business is open, the phones are staffed, the calls are answered, that's usually somewhat of a window of reliability. And but in the evenings, even during the day though, I've called businesses before during the day, in the middle of the day, and somebody has stepped away from the desk and there's no answer. And you get routed to the voice answering system. Press one for this, press two for that, and even in the middle of the day, that can be frustrating because you're like, well, I'm calling during business hours and nobody's answering. Well, what if they could answer? And in the evening, overnight, 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., the phones are unmanned. The business is closed. The calls are being missed. The voicemail, people may or may not choose to leave a voicemail if they call. And if they're not, people aren't getting an answer, then the buyers may just move on to the next option. And of course, on weekends, most businesses are closed. That doesn't mean that buyers aren't looking or calling. That just means that they're not getting a response. So that inconsistency creates a perception problem, and perception shapes buying decisions more than most companies realize. So if they call at 10 a.m. on a Sunday and they actually were to get an answered phone with a responsive voice agent that answers all their questions and books them into a call with the right person, they're going to feel like, oh, well, that's nice. Like, I got what I needed. I got what I was looking for. Not this sense of, nebulous brain space of like, well, I hope somebody gets back to me, or I wonder when someone's going to get back to me, or this wasn't a great experience, heaven forbid. We want them to have a good experience and feel taken care of every time they call. And consistency builds trust. Trust isn't built in one great conversation. It's built through repeated, reliable experiences that signal, hey, we're here, we're ready, and we're going to take your call seriously. And it helps buyers feel acknowledged. And every time they call and they get a response and not a voicemail box, they feel like they're being taken care of. And conversations start faster. If they called at 10 a.m. on Sunday, and instead of getting a voicemail and then somebody has to get back to them, and who knows when that will be, they got their questions answered right away and they got booked into a call and they know when that call is going to happen, that's momentum. And so they have already moved on to the next step. They're not waiting for someone to call them back to move them to the next step, which I don't know about you, but I have my phone set to block unknown callers. So even if they leave a message, if I leave a message and somebody calls me back and their number is not in my phone, like, it's going to get blocked. So, and I'm noticing that also more and more with clients. People don't answer the phone anymore. So if they call and they leave a voicemail and then you can't get back through, then what happens? So it's really just the best option is to answer the call right away. When they're calling you, answer the call. And when they are always getting a response, when you're being responsive to them, it builds trust. They feel like, oh, well, these guys are really professional. They are answering my questions. They are being responsive. They're helping me get what I need. And consistency creates confidence, and confidence creates customers. If they have a really good experience anytime they interact with your business, which partner to select, they're going to think about selecting you because they're like, well, these guys are on their game. They are answering the calls. They're getting me what I need. And I feel like I'm having a good experience. So, and, based on those interactions, they're going to make, they're going to make assumptions about what the experience of working with you is going to be like. So this is where voice AI changes things. Voice AI doesn't replace your team. It fills in the gaps your team structurally cannot cover. It acts as the always on front line of your business, ensuring no call goes unacknowledged. So every call gets answered, every caller gets greeted professionally, and every inquiry gets handled. Of course, it's available 24/7. It's never going to have a bad day. It can answer multiple calls at the same time. It's always professional. It can be trained. I mean, it can answer even more questions than if you hired a receptionist, because a receptionist maybe doesn't know your business unless they've been around a really long time. um we as humans are not like Neo in the Matrix. Like, you don't just plug our head in and we are suddenly knowledgeable about everything that comes to your business. um Whereas actually voice AI is like, you can train the voice AI with your entire knowledge base. So if you have information, if there are questions that your customers frequently ask, you can train the AI to answer those questions effectively. Um, and you can also review the transcript. So you can review, what did people ask? What did people talk about? If there are questions that are not being answered or that the AI hasn't been trained to answer, you can train them to answer those questions too. So, it's a very useful system that, can really give people a good experience and can help take some of the burden off of your team. Um, so every caller gets a real immediate response. Voice AI does more than answer calls. Think of it as more than a receptionist, because, us humans, we only know so much stuff. So, yeah, a receptionist can forward a call, they can take a message, but they may not know the answer to a lot of questions. Whereas an AI can be trained to know the answer to a large number of questions. And so it's an intelligent frontline system capable of handling the full first conversation workflow without a human having to be in the loop. It can be trained like Neo in the Matrix. So, unlike us humans, which is kind of a scary thing about AI, is it's like, oh wow, um, it's like way smarter than us. But that's kind of creepy and scary, but that's the case. Like, you can really train it to be way smarter than us. And even like the best salesperson company may not know everything that's in the entire knowledge base, but you can train the AI to know everything that's in the entire knowledge base. It can route inquiries. So if there's multiple departments, maybe there's sales, maybe there's support, maybe there's I don't know, whatever other departments you might have, it can route people to them if it determines that that's what their inquiry is about. And it can qualify leads. If there are certain questions that you typically need to ask to determine if a prospective customer is qualified, or to have a better human to human sales conversation with them, the AI can ask those preliminary questions. Like, what is the problem you're dealing with? What are you looking for to solve it? When are you looking to get started with someone who can solve this problem? What is your budget? There's like all kinds of questions that may be important to qualify a lead, that, if the human were able to show up to the call knowing what the answers to those questions were, they can have a much more informed first human to human conversation. And then it can, of course, book appointments. So, we as humans are not available 24/7, and we may have busy schedules. So the AI can look at our calendar, find out when we're available, and book the person into a call with us. Buyers want fast answers. So when someone calls your business, they're not expecting a perfect scripted conversation. They're expecting responsiveness. Speed signals respect for their time, and respect earns business. You know, they they just want an answer. Like, they want to be taken care of when they call. They just want to, whatever reason they're calling for, they want to get that solution. So they're not looking to leave a voicemail. They're not looking to get a runaround from a voice answering machine. They're just looking for whatever they're looking for. They want a responsive answer. And they want their questions answered. They want an appointment booked. Whatever it is they're looking for, they want it now. So the more you can make them feel like they're getting they're getting the answer they called for now, rather than being made to wait, the better that they're going to feel, in terms of feeling like they're being taken care of and you're being responsive to them. And, first impressions matter. Just like you wouldn't show up to an important job interview wearing ripped jeans and a dirty t-shirt. You would wear your best suit to go to a job interview. First impressions in sales aren't just about personality. They're about speed and structure. So it's about the experience that the person has. So did they get their questions answered? Did they feel like they're moving to the next step, whatever that is, with you? So the call is received. The buyer is reaching out. They're hot right now. They want to know if you provide XYZ service. They want to know if you're going to be someone who can help them solve their problem, and they're ready to engage right now. They then form a perception based on, was this company professional? Were they responsive? Do they seem trustworthy? All these things that go through our mind is our opinion about what happened. And that opinion is, perhaps the very first opinion that we form. And just like the employer, if you showed up to the job interview with ripped jeans and a dirty t-shirt, the very first impression the employer is going to have is, wow, this person doesn't seem serious. Or, there's no way this person is going to be the right one. If they, just a bad experience calling into your business can cause them to say, this is not going to be the right company for me. So you don't want them to say that. You want them to say, wow, I got my question answered. They were super responsive. I'm booked into a call, so I'm going to get more information. I've answered a couple preliminary questions, so the human representative will be able to be more responsive to me on the call and help me with my specific inquiry when I call. So this is going well. And so that's momentum. And fast engagement doesn't just feel better. It creates a measurable conversion advantage that compounds over time. So if every time they interact with your business, it's a good experience, their trust level is going to continue to grow. They're going to continue to say, oh, well, these guys seem really good. These guys seem like they're on their game. These guys are responsive. They have their, they seem like if I were to hire them, they're going to do what they say they're going to do. Because at the end of the day, companies, we can say that we can do all of this different stuff, but the customer has to believe that they're going to get the results that we're promising them. And that's based on trust. And so at every interaction point, we want to build that trust so that when we present our offer and we present them with the expected results that, they can expect from working with us, that they believe us and that they think, yeah, if I work with these folks, it's going to be a good experience. I am going to get the results promised. And, we want them saying, yeah, this seems great. And we want them thinking, yes, like these folks are going to answer my questions. They're going to solve my problems. I'm going to get the results and it's going to be amazing. So voice AI helps capture intent in the moment. So when somebody is calling you, that is the moment when they are most interested. And so if they're calling you because now is the right time for them, they are most interested right now, and you make them wait, well, later on they may not be quite so interested, or their priorities may have changed. Maybe now they've been pulled off onto something else. Maybe they're distracted, or it's just not as much of a priority. So, you want to answer them when they are most interested, which is at the point of time when they are calling you. So, they are actively interested at that time. They have real questions that they want to get an answer to right now, and their intent is high. They are at the peak moment of the buying journey. They have decided to reach out to you, and answering them, showing them a response when they are reaching out to you, meeting them where they're at rather than making them wait. Voice AI helps you capture that moment every single time, not just when your business is available or, when you're able to answer the phone. And this prevents opportunities from slipping away. So without the voice AI, you're probably missing calls. You may not even know that you missed a call. You may not ever know because they may not call back. You won't know, did they have an opportunity that they were inquiring about? Was it a good opportunity? What is their name? What were they calling about? You don't know. But with the voice AI, they call in, they get an instant answer. There is a conversation. The AI can answer their questions, book them into a call, get their contact information, find out why they were calling, and pass the information along to a human so that they can have an informed conversation with them when they are available. And it just improves customer experience. It's not just a sales tool, it's a customer experience upgrade. Every person who interacts with your business deserves a fast, professional response, whether they're a new lead or a long-standing client, anytime that they call, even if you're not open. Giving better customer service. Existing customers can get instant answers without waiting on hold or navigating voicemail trees. There's smarter routing. So instead of press 1 for sales, press 2 for support, press 3 for our automated directory, they get a smarter routing. The agent can just say, can I ask why you're calling today? And the person can say, oh, I actually just wanted to find out more about your services. Oh, the AI can then identify it as a sales related call and just say, okay, well, that's great. I'd like to route you to our sales team. And then it can just route the call. No headache, no runaround, no feeling like you're calling in. I mean, ironically, we seem to worry about like people having an AI conversation, like we're going to make them talk to a robot. Yet so many of us are still sending people into a robot, like a robotic, they call it like a branching voicemail tree conversation. Like, the press 1, press 2, like that is not any fun. And I'm sure that you have had experienced that. And wouldn't it be cooler if when someone calls, the AI just said, oh, hey, can I find out what you're calling about today? And if they say, oh, I'm having a problem with the other thing, it can say, oh, this, it automatically can detect, oh, this person is looking for support. And then it can ask them, oh, would it be all right if I route you to my support team? And, no headache, no annoying button pressing, just a natural human-like conversation. So overall, it just gives a better, more professional experience. So, from the very first call to the final resolution, every interaction feels more responsive and professional. And just to reiterate, AI is not replacing your team. And, people often say, like, oh, is this going to replace my team? It's not eliminating your people, it's designed to protect their time, value their time, and let the humans do what they do best, which is take the higher level conversations, close the deals, and the AI can do the preliminary touch point. So somebody calls in, it can route a call, it can book an appointment, it can answer questions out of the knowledge base. So if people, I don't know if anyone's ever seen there's like a show called the IT Crowd, from like, it's like from the 90s. It's a British like comedy. But they're this like IT team that's like stuffed in the basement of a office building, and people are constantly calling in saying like, oh, my computer won't turn on, or like, oh, this is happening with my computer. And the guy has like a a recorded like machine that he just pushes the button. It's got a tape in it, which they were still using tapes at that time. And he just presses the button, presses play, and it says, have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? But the knowledge base, like if the AI was trained with a knowledge base and you get similar questions over and over again, like it's just going to answer the questions and help them get the resolution without having to go through any sort of runaround. So, and then if it can't appropriately answer their question, it can forward them to the support team or a human, or take a message and somebody can call back, either way. So, the voice AI will handle the first touch response 24/7, repetitive FAQs and routine inquiries. It can handle availability gaps and overflow volume. If the receptionist is already on the phone and somebody's calling in, instead of having to wait on hold, they can chat with the voice AI. Lead qualification and appointment booking. Instead of your sales reps having to qualify every call, they show up to a booked appointment with information already to have a qualified conversation. So your team focuses on the high value sales conversations, the complex problem solving, the relationship building and retention, closing the deals that require human judgment, and the lower level tasks the AI can handle. So high performing companies build systems. The difference between businesses that consistently convert leads and those that don't isn't talent, it's infrastructure. Winning companies don't leave responsiveness to chance. They don't rely on voicemail. Voicemail is a dead end. Callers rarely, that people don't want to leave messages. And companies rarely call back fast enough. Like if somebody just leaves a message, then yeah, somebody on Monday checks the voicemail and they call back. Maybe the person doesn't answer, and now you're playing phone tag. So, wouldn't it be nice to just answer the phone when they're calling in? And then they don't hope somebody answers. Hope isn't a system. Consistent results require consistent processes, not luck, not hoping we're being available, not hoping somebody gets back to them, not wondering whose responsibility it was to get back to that person, having a system. And they build reliable response infrastructure. So systems that answer every call, every time, regardless of the hour, staffing, or call volume. And small timing improvements create big results. They compound. Speed to response is one of the highest leverage variables in sales. Studies show that responding within the first minute dramatically increases the potential or the probability of a conversation. And that advantage compounds over hundreds of calls. So if you're missing even 5 calls a month, and you can stop missing those 5 calls. If 3 of those calls were sales inquiries, like now you've got 3 additional sales inquiries that you didn't have before. Maybe could you be missing like more than that? 10 calls, 20 calls a month. You don't maybe even know how many calls have been missed. Because, somebody gets a voicemail, maybe they just decide, I'm not going to leave a message. So you don't know who it was that called. You don't know what their issue was or what they were looking for. And you just don't have a conversation. So making sure there's a conversation every time, you get better lead conversion. A faster response means there's a higher likelihood of turning a caller into a qualified opportunity. That person was attended to, their questions were answered, they were either routed to the right place, or a message was taken, or they were booked into a call with your sales team, and the opportunity was not missed. And then booking rates, instant engagement dramatically increases the percentage of calls that result in booked meetings. And customer trust. Repeated fast responses build a reputation for reliability, turning buyers into advocates. So they feel like they're always taken care of, they're always being responded to. Speed compounds over time. Every fast answer is a competitive advantage, multiplied across every call, every day. So, where a lot of us probably are right now is we get a call. It rings through, it doesn't get answered, it gets routed through some sort of a phone tree, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. They end up in a voicemail. They decide not to leave a voicemail, and the opportunity is lost. And there's no record of it, there's no follow-up, and their revenue is lost. With the new model, the call arrives. It's instantly answered by the voice AI. The caller is greeted professionally. The lead is qualified. The appointment is booked automatically, and the pipeline is captured. There's now a prospective deal in the pipeline because the call was answered, the person was booked into an appointment, and now there's going to be a conversation. So, the shift isn't complicated. This is a new tool, but its impact is profound. And every call becomes a captured opportunity instead of a silent loss in your pipeline. So if you're ready to see this in action, you've seen the problem, we've talked about it, you saw a demo, type calls in the comments below, and I'll show you how the voice AI is transforming the way businesses capture leads, qualify buyers, and book conversations automatically. I'll show you a live demo. You can play with the demo. I'll send it to you, and you can see how it works for yourself. Have a conversation with it, and you can understand the impact. What is really the impact of this to your business? I mean, think about that for your business. What if every single person who called in got an answer, didn't have to leave a voicemail, didn't have to wait for a follow-up, got immediately responded to, got immediately engaged, had their questions immediately answered? Like, what would that mean for your business? Not just for the potential opportunities, sales opportunities that are going to be captured and not lost, but also in terms of the customer service. Just making sure that even existing customers who are calling in get the answers they need quickly, efficiently, immediately, and feel taken care of. That's huge. So next time somebody's calling into your business, will someone answer? And, the next customer may call tonight or this weekend or the moment your team steps away from their desk for lunch. The businesses winning in today's market aren't the ones with the biggest budget. They're the ones who show up every time the phone rings consistently. The question is no longer whether buyers will reach out after hours. The question is whether you'll be there when they do. That's just today's buyers. They want answers when they want answers. They expect to be able to call any time of day when they are ready and get an answer or get what they're looking for. So, why not just give them what they're looking for when they're looking for it? And, that's what voice AI really helps us do now. And it's pretty incredible. Drop the word calls below in the comments and I'll get you set up so you can test it out for yourself, find out a little bit more about how it works and see if it might be right for you. And again, my name's Laura Kamrath. I'm with Zebra Marketing, and we help B2B companies to, who have something incredible to bring to the world for their customers, solving their problems, but they may need a little bit of help in today's cutting edge marketing environment where things are changing very rapidly and evolving very rapidly. You want to be on the cutting edge and you want to make sure that your business is, staying at the forefront of marketing so that you can be a market leader. Alrighty. Okay, let me just switch back to me real fast. Sorry, the screen looked pretty crazy. All right. Hang on a second. Is thinking about it. In any case, if this has been a useful conversation for you, if you feel like it would benefit others, please, like, comment, share. If you have questions, go ahead and drop your questions. Live here on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central Time. And would love for you to come back. We're going to be talking about digital marketing of AI, about how to leverage automation and AI to help you grow your business so that you can connect with more prospective customers, have more conversations, close more deals, and make sure you're hitting your revenue targets month over month, quarter over quarter, and into the successful entity you are looking for. And thanks for hopping in with me. I look forward to seeing you next week. And